Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Manifest. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, because of the calling that Sanvi, Michaela, as well as Ben got last episode. Obviously Ben, and Grace in particular have been a little more on edge because they're like, yeah, something terrible is about to happen. And obviously, Olive hasn't been so receptive to that whole situation because she feels like they're in panic. They're so caught up in the fear and everything, when it's like, obviously because of Adrian and the church, it's like, oh, it's all about, hope and everything. So, and that turns into a whole blowout because even, Cal wants to kind of go somewhere, but his parents are telling him he can't really do it. But he's like, because he's still a kid, so he's kind of acting out in the sense of like him saying like, which is super morbid to say, he's like, what's the point of not being able to do whatever I want to when I literally only have like 5 years to live? It's like, Jesus, kid, why would you say that? But once again, it's just like, he's old enough to process all of it, but he just said it in the moment. But then it's interesting because when you actually think about it, in the moment that Cal's kind of rebelling in that same regard, Olive is too. So it might be, even though they're distant in age, they're still twins. So the fact is there's still some of that, because Olive is like, oh yeah, like the fact of the matter is, yeah, I'm a prisoner too. They're like, no, we just want to keep you safe. And it's like, well, also because she's grounded because like she skipped school and she was like, yeah, I was at a soup kitchen basically. And so the whole situation is, we want you to stay away from Adrian, because the fact of the matter is, once again, Ben's trying to warn, like, he's creating this situation. The fact is he's breeding, these believers and everything. But, Olive is just kind of steadfast and just kind of like, the fact is she's like, I'm going to get emancipated and now I won't have to worry about this situation. It's like, you guys are a miracle whether you realize it or not. It's like, the fact of the matter is, they're like, you act like we're a broken family. And she's like, we are a broken family. And you're just not, which is super messed up to say in the grand scheme of things, which is an argument I would make too. It's like, she's like, oh, it's a miracle and everything. It's like, well, would you call your family kind of being broken a miracle? But in her sense, my family might be broken, but at least it's back together. But, it's just kind of give and take with the whole situation. So, but Ben confronts Adrian. And once again, like I thought, no one saw Adrian there. So, because Ben's like, the fact is, oh, tell me you haven't gotten a calling. Like, for him, it's like, he confronts Adrian. Is like, the fact is, it's dangerous what you're doing. You're heightening us up in people's eyes, and that's going to that could be disastrous. I love that line of like, if anything happens to my daughter, it's going to be on you. And, it is so interesting, because it definitely is kind of what I thought, in the sense that Adrian is someone, the episode solidifies it. It was already kind of a thing before, but Adrian believes, like, he doesn't wholeheartedly believe what he doesn't practice what he preached. He doesn't believe. So the fact of the matter, but it's just all BS. Because once again, he got famous. He got so much attention. Like, he wanted to feel special and important, And ultimately, skipping around a little bit, obviously that's going to be his undoing. Obviously, there's complications between Michaela and Zeke, because it turns out, for Zeke, obviously, like, she kind of, rather than confronting him directly about the whole peel situation she found in his razors, she's like, oh, can I borrow your razor? And he's like, yeah, sure. It's like, oh, where is it? And it's like, yeah, I found peels. It's like, why did you just bring it up to me? It's like, I'm not using, the fact of the matter is you're forgetting who the source is and everything, which obviously, to be fair, in Zeke, in Michaela's defense, you are an addict and she's just trying to keep you. So it's a thing of like, you don't trust me enough. But it's like, no, when you're high, you're not going to be the most trustworthy source, because you're not going to look after your own benefit, look after yourself. I mean, even later on we see him with the razor and the pills, because I think for him, he kind of felt bad because it's like all that blustering I did. And it's like, well, to be fair, I do have the pills. And, for him, they might be a byproduct of like, I wouldn't assume they're old razors. They could be old razors from before he got clean, that he forgot that the pills were in there, and with the other razor, he's like, right. So he can understand why Michaela would feel the way she did. Or it could just be like, it is just a backup plan of like, he did put those in there more recently upon getting clean, or maybe they were there before he got, that's, and like I said, he could have just easily have forgotten about it. But regardless of that situation, Michaela's dealing with that, as well as, more so than anything, it's this, new calling. At the same time, there's a whole situation with Sanvi. Sanvi's so desperate for a cure, but the fact of the matter is none of her research is coming through, and her dad suggests her turning to the person who basically helped her with her cancer work beforehand, and that person being Alex. And I'm like, oh, so this is how you and Alex know each other. And the sad thing is, because Alex thought it was a fling, because she was like, you said like, oh, you just want to make this about war, because it's like all the time she was like, I wanted to pick up the phone and stuff like that. The Sanvi's like, I've been back for months. If you could have reached out at any point in time. Like, that is super messed up. I was gone for like 5 years and then I came back. Literally everyone else had someone meet them there, despite the complicated situation they were in. Grace and Olive came to see Ben, Michaela, and Cal when they came back, so it's a little more hurtful, on Sanvi's side of things, because especially for her, because I think, that shows like this relationship had such an impact on her, because she was in love, because she's like, well, you just said this was, I wasn't about to ruin my marriage over a fling, and Sanvi's like, it wasn't a fling for me, I loved you. And I think in Alex's mind, she never understood that. Or maybe that's her just trying to belittle it, because like she's afraid, because she did, maybe she was afraid, because she was on her way, but then she changed her mind last minute because of that whole situation. She got scared, So meaning that the fact is you were on your way, meaning it wasn't just a fling, that there was something more to it. But maybe she just took out, like, the fact that Sanvi was so wrapped up in her work, she was just like, oh, that's all this is to her, kind of like a stressful relationship, just kind of a little summer fling or something like that. So maybe that's how she looked at it. Either way, the sad thing is how much kind of pain it causes, in Sanvi. So I wonder, would this have all ever come up if, like, it had never gotten brought up because of like the major and stuff. I'm curious, like those quote unquote therapy sessions with the major, I'm wondering, did that play any role in kind of like resurfacing? I mean, to be fair, Sanvi could have been dealing with this the entire time, and maybe now just happens to be the time that bubbles to the surface, but regardless of all that. So basically, Ben's in the situation of like, all right, so how do I handle this whole Adrian situation? And Michaela's like, well, keep your enemies close type of thing. So he hits Adrian up about, oh, how about some drinks and stuff like that? And it's like, Adrian's like, yeah, sure, you free tonight? At the same time, there's like this party that's happening. Believers are going. Olive and TJ are going. Because I liked it too, that despite everything, even TJ was like, yeah, I kind of side with your dad about this whole Adrian thing. Like, Adrian's kind of full of it. And she's like, you don't believe? He's like, I mean, how can my situation be a miracle? I literally came back. My mom was gone. I had no friends. I had nowhere to live. Like, how is that a miracle? And I think even Olive was kind of like, yeah. But I think it's like, yeah, there's give and take. I think still probably in her mind, it's like, even if that is the case, you came back and there's so much that came about because of it. So like there is good with it. It is, like I'm getting way ahead of myself, but it is sad. The moment they exchanged bracelets, I was like, oh, dude, something's going to happen. I was like, please, something's going to happen. Something is going to happen. I was like, oh, I just had that gut feeling. I was like, oh, please don't, because he gives her his bracelet that his mom, it's like a family friend had held on to it, some of his mom's stuff, and he ends up giving it to Olive because, because for him, he's like, it is a miracle. It's like, because when he came back, he felt like he was alone. He had no one, but now meeting up with Ben, meeting up with Olive, he feels like he has a kind of a reason to live again, because it's like, oh, I'm able to help Ben out with all of this stuff, but also he ended up meeting Olive again. And fate has a funny way of working things out, because Olive, and him met 5 years ago, and she obviously crushed on him, and now to see where things kind of ended up now, it's interesting in the long run. But then the moment we see the whole situation with the wine, because obviously we see like the Xers have some plan, because Jarrett's trying to collect info from Michaela about like what she's up to and stuff like that. I'm like, okay. And then we see like the wines being champagne being messed with and stuff like that. And I'm like, what is that? I was like, what is that about? Well, I said champagne because it might not have been champagne, wine, whatever the case may be, the alcohol. And I'm like, what? I was like, oh, is this the Xers' plans? And then we see like Isaiah brings, Michaela there, because he's like, oh, I'm willing to talk about the Xers. And then he's behind the bar and everything. I'm like, oh my God, you SOB, you're an Xer, aren't you? This is part of the plan. But then I thought about it. I was like, no, doesn't make any sense. Xers seem like they got their own thing going on. It does seem like this is unrelated. Why would Jarrett be gathering stuff from Michaela if it was all connected to this? So it's like, no, he's a believer. Once again, showing us the literal extremes, the extremist of extremes on the negative side being the Xers, and the more positive side being believers like Isaiah. And I knew it. Like, I said it. Like, the way they were setting Isaiah up, I was like, he's a extremist when it comes to his belief in all of this. I was like, and it's going to blow up in their faces, especially when Ben gets there, because he's like, wait, you didn't contact Adrian. I was like, oh, crap. And then I was like, it's a trap. And then, like, Michaela starts noticing people. She sees Bethany. Obviously, Ben runs into Finn and is like, wait, what the hell? Wait, what? And then it starts clicking. The calling manifested itself as a plane, because obviously it represents them as passengers, because they were the forefront of all this. But then, like, they start looking around the room. Michaela recognizes people. Ben recognizes people as passengers. So the calling manifested itself as a plane, but the burning ash and stuff like that was supposed to represent the fact is that it was supposed to represent, just a fire in general. And then they kind of have another calling, and it kind of pieced all together. And then Adrian's there, and Ben snaps, because he's like, wait, you had the calling and you did nothing. He was like, I didn't want to believe. And he's like, you're a hypocrite. You're making all these people believe in stuff like that, and at the end of the day, you don't believe it yourself. You're not willing to believe. That is so messed up in the grand scheme of things. You are puffing up all this stuff about how great the miracle is and stuff like that. But when a vision like that happens, because like I said, I thought this was going to be a byproduct of something. Like, the moment Adrian said last episode, we're just going to have to wait, another miracle is going to happen. I thought he was going to be the one that set this all in motion, but it wasn't. He did. Directly / also indirectly, because he built up this whole thing about the miracle of these people. Like, it created fanatics like Isaiah, people who might be kind of broken in their own life. I mean, because that's who he ended up reaching out to, people who were broken, looking for something to believe, and he took advantage of that desperation and that belief, and now this situation was the byproduct. Because I don't believe Isaiah was thinking about this the entire time. Hey, maybe he was, but I'm thinking Adrian's words being last episode being like, oh, there will be another miracle. I believe that's what spurred him to kind of do all this, to create another miracle, because he's like, because he even said to himself, like, all the passengers, the miracles have to be here, so a miracle will happen again. Because it was even something TJ had said. He was like, we're not gods and we're not angels, we're just regular people that got a second chance for whatever reason, under circumstances, for whatever reason, we're here to do something. And obviously it's sad that things kind of turned out this way. Luckily, TJ and Ben were able to get to Olive in time, but then they get separated because TJ sacrifices himself to stop Isaiah. I was butchered, but it's like, it's a bummer, because Ben was going to go back for him, and could we see that Ben ends up walking past Finn too? And I think it's a situation of, if he had stopped to try and save Finn, it was more so like the calling guided him, because I think him and his family are literally at the center of this. But I think because of that, like, the calling was probably forcing his hand by being like, if you try to save Finn, there's no happy ending for that. Like, none of you will survive, which is a bummer, literally, because Finn literally found out he has a son, that his son will grow up probably never knowing the truth. Not unless there's going to be some twist to this, that situation ends up differently. But now it's like both Finn and TJ are dead now, and you see Adrian at the end realizing, like, I did all this. The callings were reaching out to me, and I ignored the signs. I created this situation, and it's like, yeah, you did. It is interesting that the people who would have the calling as well about this whole situation would be Zeke, Cal, and Grace. But I guess it's like they are the three most connected people to this whole situation. And obviously, they end up calling up Jared about the whole thing, which he shows up and help. And luckily, he was able to help Michaela, Bethany, and Zeke get out. There was that situation of Michaela tried to grab onto, like, the thing pinning Bethany down, but Zeke came over and lifted up. I was like, does he not feel anything? Is he high right now? But I was wondering about that. But I felt like even being high wouldn't, I guess if you're so high, you won't be able to feel the pain. But I was wondering about that. And then we get the interesting development where, like, Sanvi examines him later on, and his hands aren't burned; they're frostbitten. And because, like, Home Dude last season, he drowned on dry land, so it's like, is that what's happening to me? Like, basically, you're dying the way you originally died, and he died by frostbite. He froze to death. So it's like, okay, so, but it's like, you're not near your death date yet. But I guess, like, until he reaches his death date, he's going to keep getting colder and colder until he freezes to death, because I guess drowning, I guess, can be an instant thing, whereas I guess like freezing to death can be a slow process. So that sucks that it's happening, but I think it's happening so slowly, and it seems like he's covering it up because Michaela's like, oh, why'd you do that? Like she's under the impression he burned his hands, not realizing like, oh no, he's frostbit because he's keeping it from her, and because of that, he's kind of, it's like the fact of the matter is, I don't know how you feel about the situation, but he was like, I'm all in, because he realizes the clock was already ticking, but now it's ticking just that much faster, and is trying to enjoy what time he has left, and he's not trying to worry Michaela, because he doesn't want Michaela probably worried the entire time about trying to, spending her entire time like worried about it. It's like kind of probably basically like, let's enjoy what time we do have left, and so he says, I love you, and Michaela says, I love you too. So it's sweet, but obviously it's a bitter sweetness to it because we know something that Michaela doesn't know. So like I said, it's just kind of a tragedy. I mean, who knows if those are the only ones. I mean, it seems like TJ, Isaiah, and Finn were the only casualties. Granted, that doesn't make it better, but I mean, there were plenty of people who passed out, but hopefully maybe they were able to get to those people. Who knows, with this whole situation. It's actually, really sad that things played out like this. And I'm curious to see what this means for Olive going forward, because she had such belief in this whole thing, like, oh yeah, my parents are worrying, they're coming from a place of fear, but now she realizes like how dangerous this can be, not just on the Xers, but even like how dangerous belief can be. I mean, to be fair, history has actually taught us, like, there are people who are so devout in their beliefs. I mean, because of belief, that led to witch hunts. People were so sure, like, oh, these people are witches, they worship the devil, they serve the devil, they're evil, killed a lot of innocent people. So history has shown how dangerous belief can be. And which I'm not trying to like fearmonger, be like all belief, but it's like belief that is, twisted and, can be twisted, and contorted to be, seen, can come from a bad place, essentially, Like I said, not all belief, but some can be, contorted to, fit a kind of a more negative narrative. So it's just sad. And now because Samvi tested because of Alex's help, testing out her new cure, it does work. It got rid of the marker, but then I was like, oh crap, she's trying to call Ben. I was like, maybe she's going to call Alex or something, but she kind of passes out. I was like, maybe Alex is going to show up in time to kind of save her this time, and maybe that's going to end up bringing them closer. But then the moment Samvi kind of opens her eyes, and then we see like everything getting reversed, like all the callings related stuff, and I'm like, right, you've lost the ability, you've lost the callings. So upon curing yourself, getting rid of like that marker or whatever, it is, maybe you've wiped away the death date, but you've also cut your connection to all of this, which in turn, it's like, for one, it's like, well, we don't 100% know, like it's gone, but we don't know if maybe the death date is still there. I mean, hell, the death date doesn't mean anything. I mean, granted, yeah, you know when you're going to die, like 5 years from now, but obviously with the TJ situation, potentially, if that is straight up what it is, which it seems like it is, that despite all that, like, obviously you can still die at any moment in time in between now and the death date, but at the end of the day, like, TJ, found meaning in his life, and, because he was there, because he was a part of all of this, he was at, he found love, Olive found love, and it's so tragic that things ended this way. But, like I said, I'm curious to see what that kind of means in the grand scheme for, Olive, because sadly she's going to blame herself because she was so all in on this, and despite her parents' warning, she kept pushing back against it, and now realizing, like I said, the dangers of it all. And the whole thing with Sanvi, she got rid of her calling, so yeah, got rid of the death date and everything like that, but at the same time, it's like, I got a cure for everyone, but now the thing is, like, should we really take the cure? Because I mean, we should probably give passengers a choice, because the fact of the matter is, without these callings, we can't see what's coming. Like, everything is kind of a blind spot now. So, which makes you wonder, is like, you don't think Alex could be, you hope that it is in a situation where, like, this is all part of some, like, plan kind of connected to the major and stuff like that. Maybe not, because obviously they can kind of pick it now with Sanvi's research. You can kind of pick and choose who gets the marker, who gets the callings and stuff like that, and if you can, like, control the callings and make people kind of do what you want them to do, have this connected hive mind, and kind of bend to what you want, that's kind of like the ultimate goal in this situation. But also, once again, we don't know the the ramifications of doing what Sanvi did. Maybe it does some damage to her body that can be reversed. Like, she might have gotten rid of the death date, but maybe she made herself sick because of this. I mean, that's the danger of literally testing on herself like that, so desperate to make up for the fact that she feels like, oh, like the major got an upper hand on us because of me. So we'll see. Like I just get that inkling, like that's probably not going to end off in the best. We'll ultimately have to see what, in the grand scheme of things, what the outcome, the potential consequences of that situation is, you know? And then there's the situation of like the whole Jarrett thing. Like, so now it seems more and more where I'm like now before I was more like, yeah, Jarrett's like going undercover and stuff like that. Now I'm like, I don't know, man. Him going through Michaela's files and stuff like that. That's why I'm like he wouldn't have to go about getting them sneaky ways like that. You know, it's like, oh, we're cops, we have each other's back. But I'm like, but you're doing all this stuff behind Michaela's back. So like I said, not unless he's going rogue on his own. But I'm like, it makes me question you, Jarrett. Like I said, at first I was like, are you? I was like, no. This is all part of the plan. Like I'm still there. I'm like 70-30 now. Like I was like, before I was more so like probably like 100%. Like, oh yeah, oh, he's definitely working undercover. Maybe it's official, but now I'm more like maybe 70% he's kind of going rogue and this isn't official, or maybe it is, but there's a 30% of me like, maybe he's just kind of falling that far. The fact that you showed up to say Michaela shows you haven't, so that's why I'm like, no, I'm 80-20. I don't know. Like, I want to give Jarrett the benefit of the doubt, but, you know, we'll kind of see. But Michaela knows he's up to something because it's like, wait, oh, Jarrett asked for these files of mine? Stuff I'm working on when I'm up to. Oh, okay. No, yeah, sure. And it's like, all right. So she's on him about, you know, whatever he's up to. So there's that. There's that book from Alzuras that TJ had ordered before he got from the library before he died, and Ben ends up picking it up and he opens it up, and in one of the images shows a man holding a girl walking through fire. So I guess it's like a book of prophecies, like. Even back then, maybe he saw the callings, everything that was going to happen, and he drew them. And maybe that's what that book is. So maybe it's kind of a bigger piece to this whole calling puzzle. But even in that moment of like, there's a bright light shining, showing that like, oh, it was something leading Ben through the fire, leading him out. So, and then as he's sitting there, like a white light brightly glowing of like, okay, so like, once again, it's like, there's something here, like something brought them back. Something is calling out to them. What it is necessarily, we don't know, but it's like, for his office to kind of get, like, I wonder, is it going to be a thing of next time we meet up with Ben, he actually kind of be like, wait, what? He lost time or something because the calling made him do something he didn't realize. Like, I don't know. I'm interested to kind of find that, like, what's up with that book. The thing is, I was actually worried because I was like, oh, it got sent to your office. I was like, I hope someone doesn't break it. Well, no one knows to go looking for the book yet. We'll kind of have to see because, like, obviously the experts got their own plans and everything. But I'm also curious to see how this gets spun. You know, about like, you know, it's like, oh, like, look at this is all. Are they going to twist the narrative to be like, all this fire, lives were lost? Yeah, that was because of passengers. Then you find out at least 2 of the people that died were passengers, that being TJ and Finn. They might still try to spin it to be like, oh, it's TJ and Finn. Obviously, this was them, more passengers, 828ers causing so much trouble. Maybe not. But I'm very, very interested to see ultimately where all this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. Do note that there's not going to be an episode next week, but there will be one the week after that on March 2nd. So do keep that in mind. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.